This show is brought to you by HostBaby.com, web hosting for musicians.
Here on episode 12, yes, we've hit an even dozen episodes. But on this one, we're going to talk about where to get your best music marketing ideas. Is it directly from other artists in the music industry? Well, perhaps there's an even more secretive, little-known way to find those great music marketing ideas. That's what we'll cover on this episode. Hang out. Let's talk. We'll have some coffee and talk. And come on. It's good.
Information, inspiration, motivation for the modern musicpreneur.
Time to start your week right.
Here it comes, Music Marketing Monday, with your host, Bob Baker,
Mr. Buzz Factor,
and Billy Gryzak.
The Music Marketing Mind.
Ready? Are you sure?
Set.
Here it comes. Swing, baby.
You had to do it, didn't you? You had to press the button. Great. Now what? Well, you know what happens now? You get thoroughly entertained, energized with audio caffeine, and maybe even a little real caffeine over here on the other side of the microphone by me, Billy Gryzak, the Music Marketing Mind, and
Mr. Buzz Factor, who's actually known as Bob Baker, not Barker. He's the game show host, but you can come on down if you want to. I don't know why I said that, but hi, good morning, Billy. How are you?
it is definitely a caffeinated show today.
I've actually had real caffeine,
Wow.
not just the audio version of it. So we're good to go here. I'm excited about this particular episode.
Me too. And in fact, you know, hey, wait a minute. Did we miss an episode? I thought you said it was episode 12 today. Last week you said it was episode 10. What's going on?
I kind of screwed up. Yeah, in my intro, I said here on episode 10, and it was actually 11. And then we said 11. It was a crazy thing. So if you're wondering why the number and what I said at the beginning didn't, yeah, it was a little thing, there. So, hey, we're just kind of winging this, we're spontaneous and details. But we do know this is an even 12. We made it to the full egg carton.
Wow.
Without
That's
cracking
fantastic.
any, I think.
Fantastic. Well, anyway, so what are we talking about today, Bob?
Yes, like where do you get music marketing ideas? And while I think the knee-jerk reaction is to look to other artists, you look to your favorite artists and, I really like what they're doing. Let's kind of use some version of that. There are other ways to discover and uncover music marketing ideas within and outside of the music industry. So, well, I'm not sure where to start here, but I know that you feel the same way about sort of keeping your eye open. Maybe this is a good place to start. As I think when you think about this stuff and your radar is sort of always open, and not that you're obsessed with marketing, but it's just something that's sort of part of your being, like it is with you and I. We tend to notice things in the most unlikely places. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Actually, all I see when all I see when I'm out and about or watching movies, TV, anything is I see opportunities all the time. In fact, some people look through rose-colored glasses, and you look through marketing-colored glasses. I do. In fact, I drive my family crazy because every time we go places, I take pictures all the time and videos on my cell phone, and like on a family vacation, like I'll be like taking pictures of the family, but the next thing I'm like off in the corner, like taking pictures of like little things on the walls and by the cash register and, things that the people are saying. And I actually have a file of all different types of, what I consider interesting marketing ideas that I see. I mean, like I go to, Cousin Subs, they're not sponsors, but boy, I wish they would because I do like their subs. And they had like this great, social media poster, and with all their icons on it and a QR code. And I took pictures of that, put it in my file. And I'm like, why can't I do that? Why can't other people do that? So I'm always looking and seeing stuff and I'm always filing it all the time. That's just me though. I'm obsessive.
And so, yeah, so I know not everyone is kind of wired that way, in that freakish way that you and I are, Billy. But actually, right before we got on Skype here to record this, I dug up a blog post from my archives. I know it ran several years ago because my daughter was a toddler at the time, but it was titled something like Marketing Lessons from the Science Center. And so I took her there when she was a kid, and I noticed they had all these ways for people to interact with and support the Science Center. A big here in St. Louis, and so a big chunk of it is open for free to the public. Anyone can go and show up, and there's open areas. You don't have to pay a dime, and as long as you're there during business hours, you can access a lot of cool stuff. And then they had for $3, I could take my child to what's called the Discovery Room, and for like 45 minutes or something, they could play with all these cool gizmos and all that with another group of kids. For $7, these prices may have changed over the years because this was a while back. For $7 at that time, I could see a movie in the OmniMax theater there. For $12, I could gain access to the main exhibit. They usually have like a big exhibit that rotates every month, so that was another level of participation. They had guided Segway tours for $65, and I will also take you through this forest park that the Science Center is right next to. For $75, I can get a 1-year family membership and then have access to a bunch of all this cool stuff for a full year. Then they had ways of supporting them for $1,000 or more if you want to be like a benefactor, and really support them because they're a nonprofit. And so you just realized, wow, they have all these different levels of participation from free to low cost, and then they just kind of walk you up the ladder depending on how much of I guess in this case, if you're a super fan of the Science Center. And there are a lot of parallels there, giving away your music for free, but then having the dollar downloads, and then having albums, and then their live event, but you see where I'm going with this, Billy, I assume?
I do.
All right, that's it. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next time on episode 13.
No, it's really funny. I was multitasking there, and what I was doing, I was actually going through my photos just to see if I could find any nuggets of interest while you were telling, doing your part of the story. And then I was going to come back and tell you about
funny. Like the kid in the classroom and go, Johnny, what's the answer to that question? You suddenly realize you had no idea what the teacher said.
Yeah,
so
but actually, no, I was listening. He just kind of caught me off guard because I was reading a business card I took a picture of. But yeah, it's really a great idea to have lots of different options for people to get involved with you in different ways. And that's something that a lot of different businesses do. Bands, I haven't seen them do it a lot, but I have seen some membership sites that have a couple of different levels of joining. Usually that kind of stuff is mostly reserved for like people doing Kickstarter campaigns and things like that.
Right. Yeah, that has become a common thing in Kickstarter, but I think a lot of bands miss the boat, or a lot of artists in general. If you have any kind of following whatsoever, that you're missing the boat when all you do is go, well, here's my free downloads, here's the single, here's the album, and that's it. That's the only option that you give people. Why not offer those? Even though a lot of people won't take you up on it, offer something of higher value, whether it's a personal private Skype session or, house concerts or something, or I'll write a song for you or something for, $200 or $300, and just throw it out there. And having that higher priced item actually psychologically makes the lower priced item seem more affordable. So there's actually a lot of different angles to this. But you're shortchanging yourself if you don't give the super fans an opportunity to support you.
I totally agree, and so that way you're creating different levels of fans. You have the casual fan that likes you and probably come to a show. Maybe they'll buy a CD. You have the avid fan that would love to know when your new material's coming out, maybe get on a subscription. Then you have like the Uber fan or the super fan, or the raving fan that, really wants to be a part of like, I'm with the band. You know what I mean? That kind of recognition. Right. And a perfect example of that is I'm a big Yes fan. And Yes is coming to Madison, Wisconsin here. And I found out for only $250 extra.
Only.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty good considering Motley Crue is doing the same thing for $2,000. And I'll tell you what it is. Basically, for $250, you go to the show, you're guaranteed a ticket in the first 5 rows. And then you get a T-shirt to commemorate it. You get a VIP laminate. You go backstage. You get to meet the band, and you get a photo with the band for your extra $250. Motley Crue's doing the same thing. The only difference is it's $2,000 and you get to meet 3 of the 4 band members, which is kind of weird. But anyway, but there's
nothing against Motley Crue, but I like the Yes deal better.
I know, I mean, is that cool or what? And I mean,
yeah,
I mean, I have never seen Yes live, and they're one of my top 5 favorite bands, and I can't wait to do this. You know what I mean? What a great first experience, or any experience, to get to actually meet the band and have a picture taken with them professionally. They're going to send you. Come on.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes, back in the day, I was actually in the round in an arena. That was really cool.
Gosh, that was like. Dude, that was like the 70s or the early 80s.
And it was around, give or take around 1980. So.
Yeah, it was like, because I remember that tour. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I saw videos of it when they were at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Anyway.
But I'm curious, Billy, whether it's with your kids' music or your zombie music or your former rock band, what's an example of a marketing idea that you got from a non-music source that you implemented and worked pretty well for you? If I could put you on the spot here.
Oh, yeah, anytime. Actually, most of them, to be honest with you. I'm always looking at what other businesses are doing all the time and seeing how I can implement them. What I will tell you is about something I saw interesting recently, and that's what I was looking at here. Business cards. A lot of bands don't even use business cards anymore, which really drives me crazy. What I've noted, and business cards are basically almost free now, like if you go with some of the online companies, and instead of just actually printing a business card for your business, what I saw some businesses doing, in fact, a church was what I'm looking at right now. They had a special event coming up, and they were actually printing cards specifically for the event. And it would say, come to this special show on this date, half off, whatever, the admission, or free, whatever it was. And then it had some contact information up, but it wasn't a business card. It was basically these cards. And what they did, they put them all over my area on the bulletin boards where people have notices and stuff. And people would take the cards, and that was kind of like a reminder that they could take home with them or give to a friend about a particular show. I think that is a great idea.
Absolutely. And this just reminded me, I wrote about this years ago too, but I was this was inspired. I think I was at a Denny's or something, and they had, they have coasters, for the coffee cups or whatever. And they did something interesting where there was some kind of promotion on the coaster. And also, Houlihan's is a chain. I don't know if it's in how many cities it's in, but we have a bunch of them locally, and they have all these funny sayings and stuff on their coasters. But but years ago, I remember thinking, wow, I don't know how expensive this would be, but what if a band could get a promotional coasters? Usually they're promoting a beer or something when you're at a bar or a place that serves, liquor. Or they promote the venue. But what if you had your own custom-made coasters made that promoted your band with some kind of witty or funny thing and a reason to come to your website to get a free download, and you just went to the venues where you play and said, hey, you mind using these? We'll give you a whole box of them or stack of them or whatever. But that kind of was an interesting concept.
All right, you're gonna love this one.
Go for it. Okay, I'm bracing myself.
Yeah, this is a new one. We just started doing this. You can't put signs up in a lot of places, like you can't put like a sandwich board or big posters or yard sale type signs up in a lot of municipalities and some places without permission and all that, right? Okay. But you ever around tax time, you see those guys outside? They're like Statue of Liberty's dancing around outside with the sign that says "Get your taxes done."
That's got to be a horrible job. But
it's a horrible job. But check this out, man. That's totally legal because it's not a sign. Okay, so you can actually go out on any street corner and with a sign and dance around in a goofy costume or not and promote something. So what I just started doing was, because I do kids music, we have these people that are willing to go out with face paint and clowns and stuff like that with my sandwich board signs, and they'll go right out on the high traffic areas the day that I'm playing, saying, live kids show today with an arrow. And dude, you have no idea how much traffic that brings in. And I suspect that would work for rock bands or any other kind of bands too, especially if you had some type of unique type band. Let's say a reggae band, you had like a Rasta dude outside that said live reggae, follow me. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I think the key to that is to make it work for your identity. I mean, you gotta have some kind of just to stand out there in a chicken suit, and get attention. If the chickens aren't related to your music or your identity, would be kind of futile. That's where that sort of like people. Over the years, I've used this term. Obviously, guerrilla marketing is a big, which Jay Levinson actually coined. But I've borrowed that with his permission, actually, in my books. But it's gotten some bad press because people think it's just like doing outlandish, big, extravagant stuff, which is not my approach whatsoever. So doing stuff like that to get attention only works, in my view, if it's tied in to your identity.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. It's like if it's you're a reggae band, there's nothing wrong with looking like a reggae guy outside. That would get attention.
That'd be appropriate.
If you're a metal band, I think you would get a lot of attention standing outside, dressed up in your leather and your hair and stuff. I mean,
like Kiss or something like that.
Absolutely. I think those things would work, In fact, maybe it might work for a singer-songwriter if you stood out in the corner looking like a singer-songwriter and no, check this out. And you had acoustic guitar that you flipped over and it said live music and with an arrow pointing at it. I mean, be creative is what I'm saying. But these things do, people do this. Now here's something else that businesses do. Businesses will rent those signs, they're like, they light up with an arrow on them. You can put stuff on them like church picnic, things like that. Those signs are really inexpensive to rent, and you just basically pull it into a parking lot, and it can say, coming this week, blah, blah. Think about it. How many other bands actually have that kind of visibility at a gig they're playing? Let's say you're playing a gig at a venue that's on a corner that gets a million drive-bys a day, and you spend the $25. And drive-by was a bad word, I know.
Yeah. Okay. The nice kind of drive-by.
Impressions. You get a million impressions a day, and you've got one of those little signs out there you're paying $25 for. That's got to be something, It
also reminds me of there's a lot of like businesses that have like trucks, maybe they're furniture stores or something, and they have the name of their store and everything on the side. And I know I've heard where they will like go to a parking lot or like a mall parking lot and park strategically somewhere where not only people in the parking lot but people driving by are going to see it, and then they get in trouble when they leave the truck there because it's obvious that they're doing it for promotional reasons. But if you could borrow that in some way. Now, I think we've stated in an earlier episode, you don't want to put like signs on your van or, that, hey, a band, is here, because that could lead to some theft, especially if your equipment is in it. But if you have like a magnetic sign or something that you can put on the side of your car or van when there's not equipment in it and when it's sitting somewhere like, a high traffic area.
I have mixed emotions about that. I've done it all. I've done the van wrap. I've done the magnetic sign. I've done the vinyl lettering, I've never had a problem. My personal opinion is where I live in Wisconsin, where I live, mostly people don't break into vans and steal equipment, mostly. So if I lived in, New York or Atlanta, maybe I'd have a different opinion of that, and maybe I'd use magnetic signs. But the thing that I find really cool that I see, like, this is crazy, Bobby, you talk about looking at other industries, but like these guys that have like fish trucks, or corn trucks where they pull into the parking lot and they sell fish and corn and all that stuff in the parking lot. Right. They'll actually use this stuff. It's called I think it's called vehicle markers. And what it is like watercolor markers that you can write on your windows. It's like writing soap on your windows. And they'll actually, on their big van there, they'll write, corn for sale, or and different stuff like that. And I always thought, gee, that's kind of interesting, because if you're parking outside of the venue or you're in a parking lot, why not just write down on the side of your van the time and date of your next gig, and then while you're driving around town, people can read it right on your windows. You know what I mean? It's
perfect. So it's like, I guess that paint that they use at the used car lots or whatever. When they,
exactly. Yeah. They sell it at the dollar store. So it's funny because I just bought a bag of it. I'm going to try it this summer. So you know.
So I know we could do a whole show, and apparently most of this is on, I'm borrowing from other industries. I think that's the key message here is to widen your scope of where you can come up with ideas. But if we have a couple of minutes, I would like to touch on just some ways that you can borrow from the music industry, especially when it comes to major labels and larger artists. There's two ways to go about it. One is to look at what the major labels or major artists are doing, and then do the exact opposite. Like in one of my guerrilla music marketing books, I point out how there's a lot of activity in November and December because that's when most music is sold throughout the year. In fact, that's why I created a little mini course called Holiday Music Marketing that you were a contributor to that or had a story in there. And because 20% of all music sales happens in the last 6 weeks of the year. So major labels know this, so they focus a lot of attention and promotion on the Christmas and the holiday season. Then when January comes, they kind of take a big sigh of relief, and there's not as much flurry of activity. And that could be, for an indie artist, a great time to release your thing. People have their Christmas money, or whatever, and there's not as much noise and hoopla going on. So that's one example of doing the opposite. Another thing that you can do is to take a good idea that resonates with you and just do it on a smaller scale. Somebody might be doing some national campaign and I can't think of an example right off the bat, but just take that idea and how can you do that on a local level, whether it's a sponsorship, you can't do an international tour necessarily, but maybe you could play a few venues and find a local sponsor, take that idea, just do it on a smaller scale. And you'll notice that even major label artists themselves will do the opposite of what each other's doing. Like just two examples from last year. I was actually quoted on NPR's Marketplace on a story that this reporter was doing on One Direction. It's kind of like this big boy band you've probably heard of.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a new album that came out sometime, I think, in November or something. And what they did is instead of doing the typical thing where they released, the full album was available on X, a certain street date, you could pre-order it like a month or 6 weeks ahead of time, and then they would give you a single every week or so, that they would you get early access to for pre-ordering it, and then the whole thing was available, the rest of the album, on whatever the street date was. So it was like this extended, creating a buzz, starting to accept orders and getting something well ahead of the traditional street date. And they just asked, NPR just wanted to have a quote from me on that. And then some weeks later, Beyonce did the exact opposite thing and released an album where no mention or promotion was done until the date that it was available on iTunes. You may remember that. So even the major artists are playing and experimenting and doing the exact opposite extremes of promotion, and they're just playing with it and experimenting and seeing what happens. So I pontificated there for a few minutes. Any thoughts on any of that?
Basically, I always say, do what the big boys do. The big boys, whether it's McDonald's or it's Warner Brothers Music, whoever it is, right? Netflix, Google, whoever the big boys are. They have a lot more money to spend on marketing research. They have a lot more money to spend on PR, and you can see what they do that works because they keep doing it, right? Mm-hmm. So see if you can adapt those things to you. It's something crazy like having like a little mascot like Geico does, maybe, for instance, or television, believe it or not, especially local television, has gotten really, really inexpensive, at least in my market. It costs less money to run a TV ad here than it does to run newspaper right now. You know what I'm saying? In the local market. And so, look at what other businesses do that are successful that the bands are not doing, or look at what the really big bands are doing and do it on your level. You know what I mean? And that will really work. So really, we could go on and on and on and on about this one, but I think if there was homework to be had this week, I would say look around and see if you can find examples of things that either big music is doing, if there's still such a thing, and also what other big businesses or small businesses are doing that you can port over into what you do.
Yeah, and my suggestion for homework was just to sort of train your brain to have a marketing mindset, or have your radar open to looking at things through the lens of how can I borrow this idea and use it to promote my music. You don't have to be as obsessive or crazy and take pictures of everything like Billy does or that I do, but just start thinking about that. Going through your day, just observing through a marketer's I, and how can you borrow something and use it that's authentic to yourself, true to your personality and your identity and all this good stuff. Because not every and you have to go through a lot of ideas before you find the ones that fit. You don't have to use everything that you come up with, but when you have give a long list of possibilities, then you won't encounter that frustration of, oh, I got to do something to promote the new gig or whatever, and I can't think of anything. You know, your goal, I guess, is to have so many ideas you don't know which one to start with.
Absolutely. Okay. So before we go today, I'd also like to give a shout out once again to Jason Didner. You know, he's always supporting the show, and he actually sent us a message that says, I followed the advice from what to do at the gig. I walked around the audience area after my show with the clipboard and got 7 sign-ups I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. I gave out postcards of upcoming show dates and then asked for email addresses where I could send them free music. Great advice, guys.
Oh, awesome. That's a key thing here is that, you know, listening to this stuff while you're on the treadmill or something is great, but you got to put the stuff to use, try it out. And then let us know what, you know, the results that you get. But congratulations to Jason. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's been a real avid listener and really likes to try out our ideas. So we appreciate that. We really want to hear some more people that have tested and tried out some of our ideas and see how that goes. And you can reach us at best through Twitter and use the hashtag
MusicMM, which of course stands for Music Marketing Monday, but you know the number sign MusicMM, all one word, no spaces or dashes or anything, and we check that regularly. You can also go to my site at thebuzzfactor.com. It's thebuzzfactor.com. Click the podcast link, and on the page of any of these Music Marketing Monday episodes, there's also a link to my SpeakPipe page, speakpipe.com/Mr. Buzzfactor, where you could send us a digital message using your phone or the microphone on your laptop or desktop. We'll, if it's appropriate for the show, we'll include it in an upcoming episode.
Maybe if it's inappropriate, you never know.
Probably. Most of what we do is inappropriate, so why not?
Yeah. Well, we hope you all got some great ideas today. Oh, speaking of ideas, Bob, I have an idea. Why don't you tell us what you got going on?
Well, let's see. I just actually, as we record this a few days prior to it going public, I just actually sent a message out. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, is to sort of grow a little staff of, roving music marketing correspondents, you know, who regularly can contribute to my blog and my other podcast, which is called Artist Empowerment Radio, and getting a ton of responses. And so, I'm kind of excited about kind of widening the net and not just having my site just be a voice, you know, my own voice. Obviously, pairing up with you is one way of doing that. I hope you'll be seeing some different working musicians contributing more regularly to my blog and sharing their specific stories and all this good stuff. So I'm kind of excited about that prospect of cranking some more stuff out, where it's just not me doing all the pontificating.
That is so cool, man. Yeah, I saw that email message today, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool, Bob. And on my end, basically, I just like everybody to come visit musicmarketingmind.com, musicmarketingmind.com, and sign up to get your free little tiny, teeny-weeny ebook with one big, giant, useful idea. One simple secret to sell more music and merch.
I like that. I've never heard of an email incentive to be the tiny, teeny, weeny. But that means they don't have to spend a lot of time going through it. It's going to be really quick and easy read and high impact, I'm sure.
Very high impact, because this really works. One simple secret. And I'm growing this little teeny weeny tiny little, it started out as a white paper and then a report. Now it's a little teeny book. And one day it's going to grow up and be a big book. And it might even get to go hang out with your big books too, Bob.
Wow, that would be cool. They could hang out together on the bookshelf playground. I like that.
Okay, we're starting to drift over to that weird area.
Yes, all right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. Get out there and put on your rose-colored music marketing glasses. Look for those opportunities and share them with us in the days and weeks ahead.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
We somehow got through another one.
Oh my God.
Are you still there? Excellent! Now would be a good time to visit hostbaby.com for your free 30-day trial. Of course,